Hi, I'm Jack Draper. Shout out to Quality Shot Tennis.
Hello, and welcome back to the Wild West Tennis Podcast. Today, this is, for me, my first threesome. I've only had usually just one guest at a time. So to have these gentlemen joining us, they are from the website Just Slap. Now, don't get the wrong idea because of my intro. But what they do, well, from what I've seen, they do podcasts, they do vlogs, they do man on the street. They kind of do it all. But if you don't mind, gentlemen, and I'll let either one of you decide, how you came up with the name Just Slap.
Alex, you can take that one.
Yeah, so Steven and I have different stories on how Just Slap came to be, but basically when we were deciding to name the channel, we really wanted to give the channel name a personality. And Steven likes to slap. He's not a consistent guy. He's not a grinder. He gets out there, he starts slapping from the first point on.
Yep.
And I had a coach who, when I was training back as a junior, his catchphrase was flat and low. And so when Steven and I were talking and we're deciding what to name the podcast, we needed something along the lines of flat and low. So we both, we were chatting and decided that Just Slap Tennis is the name of the channel. It just felt right. It had a ring to it, and we went with it.
Sometimes if I'm on a ball machine, I love to just slap my forehand.
Yep.
And I'll load up a continental grip and literally just slap. You know,
that's it.
Nothing flat as a pancake, and it's so pleasurable. It normally doesn't go. I mean, it goes all over the place, but that feeling of just slapping it, God, it's nice. If only it was more consistent for and maybe it was for you guys.
Can I tell you, that was how we treated. That's how we really treat the channel. Like, it's the purpose of the channel is to really we obviously want to educate as much as we can, considering we've been around the sport for the majority of our lives, but really the primary purpose of the channel is to just have a good time. So exactly how you feel when you turn on that ball machine and you're just slapping, that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, well, I think that was very evident on the what they call the MOS, the man on the street, and that was when Alex, I guess maybe you were sick, and Alex had to do that on his own.
Yeah,
he went out and asked people about.
You know what it was? I was there. I was there for.
Oh, you were filming.
I wasn't even filming. We had another guy filming. I was kind of like organizing. You know what I mean?
Oh,
he was directing. He was directing.
He was the director, producer.
I was the Scorsese, and Alex was like the De Niro.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that's you know what? And yeah, that's fair. That is fair. I mean, at one point I thought he was going to become Raging Bull, and do battle with some of the punks on the skateboards. That was my favorite part. Yeah. And at one part, I was hoping that Alex would have had the stones to try to do one of those flippy things the skateboarders did. I don't know what they call it.
I wish I could. I can't say that I've ever been on a skateboard, so it would have been an ugly sight.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's an injury you can't afford.
No.
But okay, so so you're Scorsese, you're De Niro. But the thing I love about the man on the street is, it's you're gonna get a lot of people are like, get away from me. Yeah. No, I'm not going to sign the release. So people don't realize that watch these things. It's hard to get people to agree to it.
Steven while filming, he was making fun of me because basically what I would do is I wouldn't let people pass me. Like, I would walk up with a microphone and I'd say, hey, I gotta, do you mind if we shoot, do you mind if you're in our video for this tennis video? And they would try to kind of sidestep me, and I would just sidestep right with them. And I would just be right in front of them the whole time.
So aggressive, Brad. So aggressive.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Well, but that's because you're, Steven, you're Scorsese. You're blocking it. You're setting it up before he even realizes what happens. Yeah, you're looking at it one step ahead. And, I'm assuming, was that the course of one day or is that a couple days
Yeah.
shoot?
That
You
was
got
one
that
day.
done in a day.
We got it done in probably like 4 hours, Alex, right?
Yeah,
Wow.
we went out. Honestly, we were pretty lucky with the people that stopped as well. I thought a good percentage of people like stopped and were willing to talk to us, and I felt also we got a very diverse group of people to talk about tennis as well. Tennis fans, non-tennis fans,
Yeah.
people who play just for fun, people who watch and don't play. It was a mixture, so which was good. We got lucky with that.
And you get a lot of interesting characters in New York. So that's
Yeah.
so I think we're gonna try to keep that series going, and just start. We'll see what we do. But I personally enjoy it just to see like all the different characters that you run into.
I don't think it ever gets old. From having been involved in and doing them, I was lucky to be off camera, so it's like when I was involved, I didn't have to go as far as Alex. And
Yeah,
I wasn't Steven. I was just like, holding the mic, and you wouldn't hear the question. It was, they did that in editing. You just hear the people, or maybe they heard the question. But it's important because here's why. We realize some things that are kind of a bummer. Like, I'm amazed when I meet a person that can't name one, just name one tennis player. Now, usually Serena Williams, but she's retired. So that I could at least hope for from man, woman, child. Federer? No. Nadal? Huh? Djokovic? What the hell? So it used to be hurtful, and some of them didn't even know Agassi. And I'm like, oh gosh. My point is, that's a buzzkill. Did you find a bit of that also where you were disappointed?
The funny thing is, we would go, like, Alex would go up to people and he'd be like, "Oh, like, you want to help us on this YouTube video? We're asking people questions about tennis." And like, a lot of the responses we got, they're like, "Yeah, sure, but like, I don't know anything about tennis." And we're like, "Perfect." We're like, "Come on."
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better.
Well, yeah, even better. But the sad thing is, we assume, because we're in the sport, that, now if you did the same thing to me with golf, I can come up with a few. On the WPGA, a little harder. But even in the sports I don't follow, I can usually find one.
Right.
But for some people, they literally, I'm like, come on, Serena Williams, how do you not know who she is?
Yeah.
And they don't. I'm like, oh, crumps. But that's all right. These are random people.
One of the goals of the video, I think, for us, that one in particular, was we were actually interested to talk to individuals who, like, anytime someone said they didn't watch tennis or didn't know any tennis players, we were immediately interested because, we want to figure out what tennis is missing that is preventing these individuals from watching the sport. So, when it comes to, like, knowing massive athletes like Roger Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, Serena, if you don't know these people, like, why is that? There's no reason, you shouldn't be at least somewhat aware of these superstar athletes. And, we're trying to find holes or I guess, holes in the game as to why it's not being promoted to the level that, us tennis players would like it to be. So I think that we were just trying to get an idea of what just the common folk, right? Like the non-tennis fans, what is missing there that is preventing them from watching.
You did, because that was kind of it. It's like, well, what would you want to see more of? And I remember, one guy said, I liked it when that guy broke his racket. And I think it was the Cyprian Baghdadis, and you showed the clip. One of the skateboarders was like, I loved it when he broke his racket 7 times, and I was like, yeah, me too. So, some people want a little more sizzle or a little more fizzle. But that was the good part. You're trying to get some data that would be helpful. What can we do to make it more popular? It's a tough one. But, at the same time, doesn't look like they're hurting on ticket sales at the bigger events. So it's puzzling. How do we create more tennis fans in the U.S.?
Yeah, I think we
Do
have
you
a
guys
lot
have
of.
any ideas?
I think we have a lot of like casual fans. So like we have a lot of people that like the U.S. Open will come into town and they'll just get like they'll get tickets to like one of the day sessions and then they'll go and then they'll just forget about tennis until next year, right?
Yeah.
But and that, I mean like that's fine, but ideally like we want like die hard like like the kind of fans that they cancel they block off all their Sundays for NFL Sundays because that's their
Yeah.
thing. You know what I
There
mean?
you go.
That's kind of what we need. And I think part of it might be like I don't know. I mean, Alex kind of talked about this before, but part of it is kind of like I feel like tennis players tend to be obviously more reserved, and it's kind of hard to like maybe build up rivalries or build up certain things. Like you saw like when Kyrgios played Nadal at Wimbledon. Like that was like a hyped up match. Like everybody was talking about it. People that didn't really know about tennis were talking about it because there was like that rivalry aspect to it or something different. Versus if it's just a tennis match and these guys are out here, competing for points and titles and stuff, like you really have to be a diehard tennis fan to kind of watch it week in, week out, I feel.
Yeah, and I think I've heard other people say that. Well, they're okay with the fact that we could rely on just die-hard fans. What do you guys think? For example, you both played college tennis D1. Was that because you loved watching pro tennis, or you just somehow found the game without knowing about pro tennis? And Steven, you can go first if you want on that.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, growing up, I'd say like really like probably from the ages of like maybe 12. That's pretty much like where I like started to play like competitively till I committed to Fordham. I mean, I was obsessed with tennis. So pro tennis, playing tennis, I was just obsessed. It was my entire life. But like I know a lot of people, like even people in my academy that we were training with, like they barely watch pro tennis. They like to play tennis, like they were competitive. They they wanted to play college and all that stuff, but they didn't really like watch pro tennis that much.
Yeah, that's to me the thing that I've always found super interesting. And Alex, you'll get a shot at this one too because I know you had more of an international upbringing, but. When it comes to a lot of serious tennis players, even adults or juniors, I can tell people, oh, I know who their favorite tennis player is. They're like, how do you know? And I'm like, it's themselves. It is.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, and with me, it wasn't. My favorite tennis player was Bjorn Borg at first, and then. I think I was a Connors guy, and then McEnroe, and then Agassi. But literally, I was not my favorite tennis player. My idols, watching and reading the magazines, those were my favorite. But there's nothing wrong with the answer being, I am my favorite tennis player. Probably a good one. So, all right, Alex, what do you got?
Yeah. So my upbringing, my dad played tennis at a very high level when he was a junior. He was top 3 in the Soviet Union, growing up, under 16s, I believe. And, he then played college tennis. He eventually went to Minnesota. They were like a top 15 program when he was there. So tennis was always kind of in the books for me, I think. I'm the firstborn child. So when I was 4 years old, we went out on court next to our apartment building and we started hitting balls. And next thing I know, I'm in an academy and I loved it. I loved it from day one. I mean, that was the sport that I played, from day one. So I kind of was just introduced to it through my dad and played it. Yeah. We moved around. We played it, London, Russia, Singapore, different places, but that like tennis was always the thing that stayed the same. That was the constant. So it was, just always a part.
That makes sense. The constant. But boy, I mean, I don't imagine many people have that. I mean, that must have been wild. I imagine you're getting homeschooled for the most part. with that travel schedule, and you get the grind, right? You know that.
Yeah,
that
no,
life. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, my connect. I'm losing a little bit the connection here. Can you guys
That
hear
could
me?
be me. So
We can hear you.
Yeah, no. So
Yeah.
I didn't
Okay.
I didn't get homeschooled or anything like that. So it was always, but it was always a balancing act. That's for sure. You know, with school and then practice. It was one of those things where it's like you couldn't always fully commit. Like there was a time where I think I was just deciding whether I wanted to go full time or not. But it was just always one of those things where it was a part. It was like an
No, looks
Okay.
like Alex might have
Well,
lost some connection.
That's the good thing about
Having
doing
two.
it the way we've done it. So we'll give him a chance to reset. But I wanted to ask you, because this involves only you. I just saw this right before we came on. And just for the listeners, it's Saturday afternoon, so we don't have the draw for Madrid yet, unfortunately. Now I might be able to get Alex back in. But while let's see if we can give him a shot at redemption. Come on, Alex. You can do this. Oh,
Alex
shoot.
might
Alex,
might
you're
have
not a quitter.
no, he might have the worst Wi-Fi on the face of the earth, I think.
I can see
His Wi-Fi
him,
is
but
notoriously.
that's not his fault. All right, well, I think we got him.
There we go.
Alex, you're back.
I took out my camera quality's worse now. I took out my camera. That might be an issue. My computer is about 50 years old, so
Okay.
it's,
Well, now I'm concerned if we're still recording. I hope we are.
we are.
Okay.
I see.
We are.
I see the recording.
Oh, you can see the red button?
Yep.
If you're lying, I'll come after you.
I would never. I would
Well,
never.
if he's on, we'll come after you. He's the boss. All right. So as long as we're still, I trust you guys. You've been doing this longer than I have. As long as we're still recording in the red zone, then I'm cool. And I will get back to the question I was going to ask Steven about a video he put out today. On your final thoughts on that, Alex, then you decided you weren't going to try the tour and you wanted to go to college, after that.
Yeah. So, are you the question? What was the question? So the question was, why did we decide to go to college?
About what got you into the tennis, and with Steven, he was more like me. He loved all aspects of tennis. He probably grew up in I don't know how much you moved around, but he loved the pro game. He loved the zone game, and you have this unique thing where your father is playing on circuits of various levels, which is very rare. So, at a certain point, you love it. You're good. What made you decide, okay, I'm not going to go down the path my dad did. I'm going to go, or maybe your dad did play college at Minnesota. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I never, to be honest, like being pro was never really in the books for me. I think like maybe I thought about it when I was, 10 years old or 11 years old, but it wasn't, as I got older, I realized that I didn't, I liked doing other things too. And, to be a professional athlete, I feel like you have to dedicate all your time to the sport. And I just wasn't willing to do that, So for me, college was always kind of the path to go down. And my dad played for Minnesota. He loved college tennis. So that was always something that I think we planned for my tennis career.
Yeah.
You know, what's also funny is like, I mean, when, 12 years old was kind of when I started playing, like seriously. But I mean, I would say from the ages of like 8 to 10, I hated tennis. Like I hated it. And
Like
I was
said in his book.
It's so funny. I was a big baseball guy. And my dream was to play shortstop for the New York Yankees. That was like, if you asked me at 8 years old, what's Steven's dream, is to play shortstop for the New York Yankees. And my dad, my dad coming. So my parents are from Albania. So
from Albania.
Albania, yeah.
Okay.
So my dad like fell in love back in the day with guys like Bjorn Borg and guys like, Andre Agassi, and like those were his guys. And he really never had the opportunity to play tennis. There wasn't much access to tennis in Albania at that time. But he used to like, there was like a few courts that he would kind of go to like early in the morning. It was mostly for like tourists and stuff. And he would go there early in the morning because he loved tennis. So at I'm probably like 8, 10 years old. And I was telling my dad, I was like, I want to be a baseball player. And my dad's like, you're going to be a tennis player. He's like, you're going to be a tennis player. Okay. Tennis, that's the sport you want to try. Anyway, so I didn't really care for it too much. But then when I went, and my brother also played with me for our entire lives. When we went to like this, our first academy, the owner and head pro of the academy, basically the first day, and this kind of like set the track for me in terms of my love for tennis. The first day I remember we tried out for the academy, and he basically told my dad that, about my brother, like he had a real shot to play like really like competitive tennis and be a really good tennis player. And then my dad's like, what about Steven? And he's like, yeah, Steven's going to play for fun. And then I'm telling you, Brad, I'm telling you, it was that day where I literally looked at my dad and I was like, I'm going to try to be the best tennis player I could possibly be. And then from that point on, I just lived, I breathed tennis. I had notebooks. I read, like, it was crazy. Like it's so funny how things like that happen in your life. And it's like a 180 turn.
Did you?
But,
yeah. So, right. Yeah. And your dad probably used a little psychology, or maybe he didn't. I'm not going to, guess, but that would seem like good psychology from a parent.
Whatever he did, it worked. It worked. But I still like to play some baseball once in a while, though. I still like to.
Oh, I get the connection. If you think about it, hand-eye coordination, whether you have a two-handed backhand or a whatever, it doesn't matter. The contact point in hitting a baseball, I'm guessing, is out in front. Split step, you're a shortstop, so you kind of have to have the hops, the split step. A lot of transferable skills, I would think, between the two sports. That's kind of a guess. However, I'd like to ask you, Stephen, do you remember the first tennis book you read? Was it like Winning Ugly by Brad Gilbert, or
it was Open by Andre Agassi, and it's still and still
That's
to
why
this
when
day.
you said I hated tennis, I was like, pulling the Agassi move there.
Still to this day, that is my favorite book I've ever read in my life. I probably read it. I don't even know how many times, to be honest with you. Like you could probably count on two hands. It is like, I love that book so much. It's my favorite book. It's amazing. It's a great book.
I don't know how familiar you are. He had a great ghostwriter. All these guys that write books. I mean, I would say 99% of them. They have a ghostwriter. And the guy, I forgot his name, he wrote a Pulitzer Prize book before Open, the Agassi book. I think the title was A Boy in a Bar. And I was pretty lucky. I got to attend a lot of Andre's. He would do these sort of press conferences with a guy named Rick Riley. I don't know if you remember him from Sports Illustrated. But he would he must not be an Agassi guy. All right, you're a Sampras guy. It's fair enough, Alex.
Yeah.
No problem.
Alex,
you love serving volley.
Exactly.
Yeah, all right. You don't like AA. That's fine. Yeah. We're only going to talk about him for a few more minutes. Jeez.
Honestly, to be honest, though, 90s tennis, and this is going to sound weird, but like 90s and like even early 2000s tennis, that was my favorite tennis era. I think personally, that's the best. Like because again, like I said, it's a lot of it's from my dad because like he was a big Agassi guy, so that's kind of like those are the first matches I remember watching was like Agassi, Sampras, those guys. So Andre Agassi was like my idol for like the longest time. You know what I mean?
Are you two-handed backhand?
I'm not. That's the funny part. I'm a one-hander.
More impressive that you didn't copy AA in every way. Maybe forehand wise you might have in other aspects, but yeah, I got introduced to Andre on TV. He's playing in a tournament, I think it was in late 80s in Stratton Mountain, and he took a set off of Ivan Lendl. And I saw Andre Agassi on TV. and I thought he was French because of I don't know why. I thought the last name so stupid because his father's from Iran.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, who's this French kid? Because God, he's good. Like this dude is playing a different kind of tennis. I imagine you might have felt similar, like watching the way he hit his ground strokes. You must have been like, whoa.
It's so clean. It's so clean, and he takes it so early, and it's so much fun to watch. It's it's great.
That's good. Okay, it gives me a perfect segue to what you put out about your love of the indoor tennis.
Yeah.
Well, I know why. You're like Agassi. You're right. You're hugging that baseline.
Yeah, I mean, indoor tennis. I mean, growing up, obviously, like New Yorker, USTA Eastern kid. I hated going
Alex
outdoors.
Is back, so we hate.
I'm back, guys.
We only like Pete Sampras, so
I want to apologize.
Yeah, you're fired if it happens again.
Yeah, I second that.
I switched to a different computer.
I'm talking about the video that Steven put out about how he loves indoor tennis. On that court, you've got to be like Agassi. You pretty much have no option but to hug the baseline.
You know what's funny? That court, that was like filmed from when we did our playing on the secret court in Grand Central. So that court, if you go to that court, you'll see that there's really no space between the baseline and like the wall, right? So
Andre would love it. He'd be like, perfect.
Oh, he'd have a field day. And it's a little fast, which is like I remember like growing up in my academy, we had it was known that our hard courts were the fastest hard courts in the entire USTA Eastern section. So because we would get these kids that would come here to play the tournaments, and they would be like, I can't play on these courts, but like we ate that up, right? So you play like a highly ranked player, and you're like, oh, what court am I going to be on? Oh, I'm going to be on hard court. Oh, this is great because like you better get up an early break on this kid because he's not going to be able to play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I grew up on those fast hard courts, and like Alex mentioned, I mean, I was never listen, Brad. I'm not going to lie to you. I was never the fittest guy. Okay, I was never the guy that was going to go out there for 6 hours and grind you down. That was not going to be me. Nah, I was like, if I'm seeing a forehand that's middle, it's going bye. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the game that I played. And in the beginning, it was a lot of missing, right? You have to factor in the beginning, there was a lot of missing. It was really only till I got to like, my later years in high school, and then like obviously college tennis, where my coach was like, all right, listen, you have to make balls. You know what I mean? Like
sure, but I would think, and again, because you did have the one-hander, were you tempted to be a serve and volleyer, or was it becoming out of fashion at that point?
Well, the thing is like my serve, I felt first of all, my second serve isn't good enough, I don't think, for me to be a serve and volleyer, right? So I could come in on the first serves, but I still always felt more comfortable coming in off a forehand.
Sure.
I would rather just sit back, hit a big forehand, then come in. I did like to come in, but it wasn't really off the serve. But I did mix it up. For sure.
Yeah, especially on your first serve, and I'm guessing because you guys did play college tennis. If you were playing doubles, maybe. I don't know. I mean, by the time you were playing college tennis, guys guys would stay back. When I played college tennis in the early 90s and late 80s, we all served and volleyed still, even on second serves, just because I don't know. That's how we were taught to play doubles. But Jack Sock has kind of proven that you don't need to do that. But okay, enough of our tennis. Let's get to the big boys, and that would be the and women. Barcelona is pretty much behind us. Looking ahead to Madrid. Now, unfortunately, because today is Saturday, the draw has not come out. But I'm happy to report, because this podcast, we like to talk about players from the Americas. I think we have 13 men and 12 women in the main draw. I might have it flip-flopped. So that's pretty sweet. FAA and Dennis are in it from Canada. And I think Andrescu and Fernandez are in it from Canada. And then a good handful of Argentinian players. But without the draw, do you have any, any feelings about American, let's say U.S. players? And let's start with the men that you're expecting to have a big Madrid.
Yeah, I think you got to throw guys like, really like our top, I mean, you look at the guys in the top 5 of the Americans, you look at Fritz, you look at Tiafo, you look at Korda, you look at some of these guys and obviously clay might not be their most preferred surface,
Sure.
but yeah, I think these guys are dangerous. I think these guys are dangerous when you kind of overlook them. You know what I mean? And yeah, I think really all of them can go pretty deep. It's going to be tough when you get to guys like Alcaraz and Tsitsipas and
Right.
Darius Fokina. Like these guys are. It's a little tougher, but I think all of them. I think this younger class of Americans. I'm and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, Brad. But I'm noticing a larger level of self-belief in them.
Oh, well said, sir. Taylor Fritz being the poster boy for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is so refreshing. You know what I mean? Because like we had Roddick, we had Roddick back in the day. Who, by the way, I loved Roddick.
Me too.
Like,
but I think he had belief. I think he had belief.
He did, but then he would go to the French Open, and then they'd ask him after his first round press conference or second round press conference, and you could tell in his eyes that he's like, it's really going to be a coin flip out there because it wasn't a surface that he grew up on. He wasn't that confident. But some of these younger guys, I think they go deep. Like another guy that maybe who I think could be a little overlooked on the clay is Ben Shelton, right?
Interesting. Yeah.
I think he's obviously he's emerging, but I think he if he a couple more years continues to build himself physically, I think he could be a threat.
That's well, and Madrid, like maybe we didn't mention it, but to the non-total tennis fans, it is the fastest of the clay surfaces, altitude, the speed of the court. Federer won it. That tells you something. And by the way, the last American to win it was Andre Agassi, your guy, in 2002. So we've had a little drought there. But in fairness, Madrid in those days was played indoors. So it's a little unfair. It wasn't, and then when Rafa won Madrid the first time, he beat Ljubicic. It could have been 05, around that time. It was also indoor. But anyways, for American-style players that like faster courts, Madrid is just a different creature. So that's nice. And I like that. I like that it's different in that sense. So, your attitude about, bringing up Shelton, yes, this should, just on paper, in my mind, be the event, unless he gets a brutal draw, the one that I would expect him to do the best in, leading up to Roland Garros. For those reasons, the speed of surface. And the confidence, the belief is you brought up.
Yeah. And he has this other thing, Brad, where he's one of those guys that he's so fresh from the college tennis days that he still brings that college tennis fire. You know what I mean? Sometimes these college players, after they've been on tour a few years, they've become professional players. They've lost touch with that college tennis fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you see this kid, and he's just screaming his head off, and it's like this is college tennis. This is like primo college tennis. So I love seeing it. So
he probably wants to make his own line calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably so used to it, like
exactly.
Wait a minute, I call these, So you're right. I mean, he's so fresh, and I think that this would be the one that I would have the best feeling for him. Obviously, we know that Novak and Rafa are out. Hopefully, again, I know the final setup for Barcelona. Hopefully, those guys don't overextend themselves. It would be a bummer. I gotta believe that no matter what, Alcaraz is gonna be, even if he's banged up, determined to defend his points from last year. So I gotta believe he'll be there. Same with Tsitsipas. All the usual suspects.
It's tough. Those guys are tough.
But I did see, at least on the entry list that I was looking at yesterday, that Korda will be in the tournament, and I don't think he's played since he got hurt. Refresh my memory. I don't think he's played a match since, I can't remember the injury. I think it was in Australia.
Yeah,
somewhere along the line he got hurt. So that'll be interesting seeing how Korda does.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's one of those guys that even if you even listen to some of the players on tour, they're like, who do you think's going to have like a really, really good year? Or who do you think is like really like undervalued right now? And a lot of the guys will say Korda. Because, like, I mean, you saw it in Australia. Like, the guy played lights out and with this, like, level of self-belief that it's, like, crazy for somebody, you know, his age and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think he's another guy that could be dangerous and kind of, you know, go deep for the Americans.
Absolutely agree with you. The injury bug has nipped him a bit. And, you know, he had a match point against Djokovic in the warm-up before the Australian Open. So that's encouraging. The pedigree is great. And he works with your guy, Andre, a lot.
Yeah.
Andre's had a big influence on Korda. So that'll be great to see him back healthy. I was kind of looking at also a guy I haven't seen play much, Brooksby.
Oh, yeah.
I don't really have much intel on him on clay. I'm guessing, think of him more as a hard court guy.
Yeah.
But again, for all of our players, that this is the one clay court event that if you're a hard court guy, you should have a pretty decent shot at, versus say Rome, or Barcelona or Monte Carlo that's very slow. But I don't know much about Jenson Brooksby. I know he finally got a new coach after leaving his longtime coach, so that'll be exciting to see him back in the mix.
Definitely, absolutely. We actually, it's funny you mentioned that. We did a podcast with a couple of other teammates, and we brought up Jenson, and somehow the conversation came, and this was like a couple years ago, but somehow it got brought up of how like we thought that he was going to be like the next kind of like dangerous American guy. And this was when he was ranked. I to be honest, I don't even remember what he was ranked at the time. But he's a guy that you just look at it and it's like, especially like somebody like me, like I would hate to play him. Like he seems like he is such like the best way to describe him, he's kind of a hack. He's kind of a hack a little bit to play. Like you know, even if you look at his technique and his shot selection is so amazing. Like he's a really smart player. But he's annoying. He must be annoying to play.
I was just gonna say, annoying AF.
Yeah.
And even if you beat him, it's not fun.
No, it's torture.
You're like, you've been out there and you're like, God, thank God that's over.
Yeah, it takes a part of you for sure.
Oh, it's just like either way, it stinks. I mean, you're happy with the win, but it's not normal. And like, is it disruptive tennis? I don't know. I think he's obviously. He seems unique to me. You might know more that he's not one of the so-called boys, and he's more of a Vince Spadea that kind of hung on his own, did his own thing, which quite frankly, fair enough. That's cool. I'm sure he's ready for the call if they need him for Davis Cup. I'm sure he'd be a team player in that sense. But he's kind of pesky, you know.
Yeah. For sure.
Like a mosquito, and you're like, God, what?
Yeah, can't get him off me.
yeah. And Isner's in the draw. I'm glad to see that. You know, I don't know what to expect from John at this point. I you know, in the Dallas final against the Chinese player, who I can't remember his name, he had some match points, and Dallas is a place where John lives now, and that would have been nice for him to have gotten that title. I don't know how much more we'll see from John Isner, but, you know, this would be, again, an event he could do all right. Yeah. Wouldn't count him out at Wimbledon, but I don't know. I don't see, well, Do you think Isner plays next year? I know that's a really looking far ahead.
It's tough. You know what it is? And I never thought I'd say this, but I'm like kind of scared that John might get pulled into the pickleball. You know what I mean? You're starting to see with all
I
these
almost
guys.
spit up my drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see a lot of these guys like
Sam Querrey and the like.
Query, Jack Sock.
Yeah.
A lot of these American guys are like, wait a second, like pickleball is kind of lit right now. We gotta try it out. And I can't remember I can't remember if I saw a video of him like playing just for fun or something like that. But like honestly, I'd say that's probably our biggest threat in terms of whether we'll see John again, is whether he makes his pickleball pro debut.
I love that. First of all, because you're the first guy that's brought that up that I've heard. And I think the thinking is, look, he's going to obviously always give himself a real opportunity to, he is kind of Mr. Atlanta. So he knows if he goes to Atlanta, he'll do well. Or if he goes to Newport, Rhode Island for the grass tournament, the Hall of Fame event, he knows he can do well. So he's got to like his chances. He's a consummate professional. God, he's been around a long time. I think he started on the tour in 07. Around there. And boy, you think about it, that's awesome. And he played 4 years at Georgia. So he's put in the hard yards. I think that'd be funny. And the thing is, too, with just to touch on pickle, it might not be a thing in 3 or 4 years. So it might be a good cash grab for these guys now.
Who knows? Who knows? Because you're starting, I think they need to figure out certain things, like in terms of like you can't, I don't know how you would put a pickleball match in a stadium, right? Like, I don't know how that would work. But like, so they have to figure out a way to kind of grow the sport, maybe with like smaller gates, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, you see a lot of these athletes are just like investing in it. You know what I mean? Like they're
sure.
I think they also need to get more organized because like I can't figure out like what's the top league. Like I don't know, like you know what I mean? It's kind of like,
I do know what you mean. Very
it's kind of all over the place,
Stephen. Because there's a guy I met. I live in Los Cabos, Mexico, where they have a 250. It's played in the summer. Medvedev won it last year. He beat Nori there in the final. And thank God they're going to move it next year, 2024, to be right before Acapulco. Kind of like their own Sunshine Double in Mexico. It's a no-brainer. I love it when tennis gets it right. So that's going to be killer. My point about bringing that up is that apparently pickleball is kind of getting big in Mexico as well. And this venue that hosts this 250 men's event is going to be the National Pickleball Center of Mexico, which is a huge country. It's got like, I think, 31 states. I don't think it's going anywhere, but pro-wise, I don't know, man. I'm like you. Stadium? Not seeing it. Recreationally? Yep. Did you watch the McEnroe, Chang, Roddick, Agassi? Because you're an Agassi guy. You probably were interested.
I didn't. First of all, I didn't even know it was going on until I started seeing like.
I didn't either.
I saw shorts on YouTube, and I'm like, "What is this?" Yeah, I just saw. I was just scrolling through YouTube, and I just saw some shorts, and I was like, "What is it?" And you saw like Roddick, you saw Agassi, you saw Mac, you saw Chang, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I mean, think about the amount of people, like just the old school tennis fans that would like go out and watch these guys kind of try pickleball and see like what they can do with it. I mean, and they're all competitive, you know what I mean? So like, you're going to get like a good battle. So that was, I mean, I think it's smart for whoever put that together. I think it's brilliant.
No, there's no hit and giggleness to that thing. That was not, I don't think there was any sort of, you're going to split. No, I think they let the guys, I didn't get the sense there was any of that normally happens.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, let's keep it a certain length. I could be wrong. The clips that I saw, I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I just saw some clips of it. But look, this is a tennis podcast, so as much time as we can devote to the tennis, I think that's important.
Yeah.
We haven't covered much of the. Oh, there he is. He was probably playing pickleball. Be honest, Alex. You had to squeeze in a set. Let's see if we can get him back. Houston, we have. Come on, Alex. Get in here. I need my glasses.
Brad, we're clearly dealing with a high budget over at Just Lab Tennis, in case you haven't realized that.
All right, guys. I'm back. I'm going to have to keep the camera off to try and...
Okay. Well,
all right. So I add you to the stream, but leave you off camera.
I'm gonna have to have the camera off. Just the Wi-Fi situation is atrocious over on my end, so apologies.
Cool. Yeah, because then it won't. We won't lose your audio, so that's good because a lot of people listen to this on Spotify, and the other big ones. So it's we'll miss your. Maybe we can like put a drawing in of you.
Maybe. Maybe.
But, yeah, I'll let Fizan, he's the master. He's the producer. He's the owner of the Quality Shot Tennis. And, that was cool that you guys got him on. I'm just curious how you guys connected with Quality Shot Tennis.
Yeah, I mean, he's we honestly, the tennis community on YouTube is pretty small. It's not a super big one. So, he actually showed us a lot of love and support just when we were doing live streams. He would come up on the stream and write a nice message. I mean, he's the man. So, we reached out to him or we kind of just connected over Instagram, I think, and decided that we wanted to collaborate. And, we just made it happen. But he was always showing support and love to us from a while back. So we're lucky to be in touch with him and to have made it happen.
And when you say a while back, it's if I recall from the interview, it's been 2 years since you started I don't know if you call it the podcast, the website, it's just me not knowing what to say.
Yeah, you can say channel, I guess. We don't even know what to call it either.
Well, yeah, right. I mean, where to find it? It's like with Quality Shot Tennis. I think of it as I don't know either. I guess I just go to Twitter and click on things and find it. But it is interesting. I like to look at all these, like mainly podcasts, because I haven't done as much of what I think Fizan is one of the greatest at calling a match and then interacting with his viewers. While multitasking, I wouldn't be able to do that. Not even for a game. Like how, do you guys do that? Do you offer that service where you call a match and interact with the viewers or listeners?
Steven's the master at that. He's he held down the stream game. We did that. I think we started doing that. We did that like January of last year. That's when we started that, and then we recently stopped. We just wanted to give the channel a more narrow focus. Focus on the podcast, focus on the shorter videos.
Yeah.
But Steven can touch on that. I mean, Steven's the master streamer over here on our
end. Yeah. Steven, do touch on that. I mean, because it's like doing radio, right?
Yeah. You know what it is? So my problem is like I get distracted very easily. So what I noticed that would happen on my streams where somebody would say something in the comments, and I, while going through that comment, I would go on this tangent out in outer space, and then I would go back to the match, and I'm like, well, 2 games just happened there. You know what I mean? So it's kind of difficult because it's like, you're trying to call the match and commentate. But then you also need to keep track of the comments and what everybody's saying. And
it's a tough job. It's a tough job.
It's tough for sure.
I mean, there were days where Steven, I think Australian Open was the last Grand Slam that we Yeah, Australian Open was the last Grand Slam that we streamed on, and
Yep.
there was a time where Steven started streams at 6:30 p.m. and then went all night up until 10 in the morning the next day.
Yeah.
Straight.
That's
He did
rough.
the entire thing. It's and
That's
so
not healthy.
But I will tell you what, Steven thrives off of the comment section and interacting with people. That's the best part about it. That's the best part about it. I mean,
that's to be honest, that's always been my favorite part of it. And honestly, that's kind of the part that I'd say I'd missed the most. I mean, here's the thing. We, as of right now, we've kind of taken a pause from the streams, and who knows what where our channel goes in the future and what we plan on doing. But that's the part I'd say I missed the most. It's kind of the live interaction with the comment sections, kind of going off on tangents, like screaming, sometimes screaming off the top of my head, because that's what I like to do apparently. So that's kind of my favorite part of it for sure.
Well, it's important. I remember during the Australian Open, I was probably going with Quality Shot Tennis because I like the way he's on. I like his voice, and I like his rhythm, and he's got the skill set to be able to multitask and engage, and he's really good. I mean, that takes. He's an accountant, so I think part of that focus of being an accountant, and I don't know what style he does, is a skill set that lends itself to being able to do the commenting or involvement with the viewers.
Yeah.
But then you have to be like, Djokovic second serve out wide. Short trip return down the line. Djokovic comes in, hits the half volley in the net. Game, set, match. That's the best I can do. How the hell do you do that point in and point out for 5 hours?
It's a lot of coffee. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's
a lot of coffee.
It's
a lot. It's a lot of coffee. It's funny. I remember this one stream where there was it was probably at like 2:00 in the morning, and there was about 6 people on watching, a total of 6, and somehow WWE/WWF got thrown in the comment section, and then I went on a close to a 30-minute tangent about World Wrestling Entertainment and who are my favorite wrestlers, and literally like, I mean, there were 6 people, so like I was like, these guys, if this is what they want to talk about, let's talk about it. But like, that's how you do it. You go on these tangents where, I mean, that's how I do it. That's how I get through it. Now, guys like other guys that are actually talking about the tennis the entire time, that's a whole other animal. Sometimes I just gotta pound black coffee and talk about WWE to get to kind of make it interesting, keep it different, But
tennis is an interesting sport because it's you have there's so many points that are just the same. Like if you think about it, 85% of tennis points are just serve and first shot, or serve and 2 shots, and then that's it. And the server has the advantage. So it typically, like, I feel like it goes, the points are really quick and typically very similar. So there's only like a few points in the match where, it's really super exciting and like the pressure's on, and where, you really have to stay glued to the match. But other than that, I mean, staying on top of every single point in tennis and commentating is tough. It's a tough job, just because it's a lot of it's the same. You're like, there's another ace. Okay, there's another serve and miss return. It's like happens, 80% of the time.
And the blowouts are rough. Like when you're playing, when it's a 3 out of 5 set match and it's like 6-1, 6-0, and it's like 2-0 in the third. I mean, you're just kind of like, okay, like you're gonna have to.
And that's where the beauty of TV. They can. The school of thought, especially in the UK, is not to talk during the point, and you don't really need to talk during the point. So they get to kind of watch the tennis, and they don't have to talk as much.
Right.
So that's easier. But these radio, and I've heard them. God, I've heard people do it on the internet mainly, and they are so fast and good at it, and it's clear you understand it.
Yep.
And I'll take it over not getting to watch any day of the week. So my hat goes off to you, Stephen, for doing that. And yeah, that's I forgot. There's also a women's event in Madrid, and Alex, when you were gone, we talked a bit about the U.S. men or American. We didn't really talk about FAA or excuse me. Sorry, I'm forgetting the other Canadian.
Shapovalov.
Thank you both. We didn't really talk much about them with the men, but let's just go ahead with the women because I think there's 12 American women in there. The usual suspects. I think the last one that got in was maybe I think her name used to be Allison Risk, and she married a tennis player. But it's kind of nice. There's like 12 women in the main draw. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, American tennis is popping off now, right? I mean, we have both on men's and women's side. I feel like there are players that are dominating. So it's exciting to see finally. Like, I feel like it's been a long time coming. There's been a period of like 20 years almost where I feel like America's kind of been dormant. So to see both sides take off is quite great. I mean, you had Serena, you had Venus on the women's side, but on the men's side especially.
American Madrid was Agassi in 2002, but that was when it was an indoor, probably carpet back then. But with the women, I think they've been more consistent.
Yeah, for sure.
Obviously Pegula, you can count on her. She's like clockwork.
Yeah.
Obviously Coco, Andreescu. I guess she must have healed. That ankle injury must not have been as bad as we thought. So I'm delighted to see that I'm pretty sure that when I looked yesterday, she's on the entry list.
It's kind of surprising. Also,
I think it is a bit surprising. So I might have got that wrong. It does seem a bit quick.
Yeah,
but she didn't. I don't think she. So she obviously didn't have to have a surgery, because then there's no way. So maybe I'm wrong on that. I thought I saw her and Leylah Fernandez listed under the Canadian women in that will be playing Madrid. Gosh,
Alex is a big Leylah guy, by the way.
I am. I'm a big fan of Leylah Fernandez.
Yeah,
okay.
Huge.
Tell me more. I'm curious.
Well, I just think that at the obviously you had the Raducanu and Fernandez U.S. Open final, and I thought that we had two new superstars, right? Come from that U.S. Open, and I'm just a fan of her personality. I'm a fan of how she carries herself and the way she plays on court. I think that she, obviously it's hard to live up to that like U.S. Open run.
Sure.
It's tough to back it up and to be perform at that level tournament. Each tournament you play. But I think she's young. She's passionate on court. She's a hard worker.
She is.
I think she's very skilled. She's got a lot of. She's not a massive hitter. She doesn't have like the power like Rybakina has or some of these bigger players do. But she she's crafty, and I think I just like her spirit. And so I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of her game.
About crafty and spirit. I think she's one of those players. I'm going to go watch her play. Yeah, whatever court she's on, whomever she's playing, I'm like, I'll have some of that. She's fun. Like Andreescu, same way, but different. Obviously, Leylah being a lefty and different playing style altogether. And I don't know how old she is. She's probably still young. I want her to have a bigger year, though. I want a little bit more out of Leylah.
I agree. I agree.
Not that it's been that, I don't know if she's been plagued with injuries. I haven't followed her out as much as you have, maybe, but I'd like a little more results, and that'd be fun.
Brad, if it's all right with you, I know this is your show and you're the boss, but I did have one question for you that I've been like dying to ask you.
All right. I'm nervous.
You ready for this?
It's okay. I mean, should I take the question?
Listen, this could be anything. This could be
Okay,
anything.
fine.
I could be
This
going
is
anywhere.
this
Yeah,
is
that's
any. I brace myself anytime he goes. Okay,
I know,
ready?
I am
I'm about to ask
bracing
you a question.
myself.
I brace
I'm like
myself. I put my seatbelt on.
No,
and
no,
I'm
God,
ready for impact.
I
This
think
is
I
an
may have
easy one.
just wet my pants. So I think I'm okay.
This is an easy one, but I'm just really curious because, as you know, I told you I was a big fan of the '90s era tennis.
Oh, cool.
And I was a big Agassi guy, of course. And you interviewed Brad Gilbert. You gotta tell me what that was like.
That I did what with Brad Gilbert? Sorry.
That you had him on the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta tell me what that was like. And like I hope. I mean, I didn't watch the entire thing. I watched parts of it, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys talked about this, but like my favorite Brad Gilbert story of all time is that Agassi French Open final, where he's down 2 sets and
locker
Brad's
room,
just
the ring. Yeah.
Yes. You
Hell
gotta
yeah.
you gotta tell me what was it like to
Well, I wasn't in
chop
the
it up with
locker room.
BG.
But I wasn't in the locker room. But like you hear different versions of it. Like the way Andre tells it. He's a little more like. Well, I saw Tennis Channel. I worked there, and we did a documentary on. I think it was on Pete actually, or I don't know. It doesn't matter. But Andre said, Brad's like, "What are you doing? Like what?" For the last 2 weeks, who are you today? What the hell's going on? like just he's perplexed, right? Like, explain to me what's going on. And Brad can be he's a super nice guy and chill, but I'm sure he was like, dude, what is going on?
Yeah.
And then Andre explains it that in his mind on one interview, he just went out on court and thought to himself, well, I'll find a different way to lose. Now, that's not, to me, giving enough credit to Brad. And maybe I misinterpreted what Andre said. But I think what the quotes are from Brad is, get back to doing what you've been doing.
Yeah.
I think that's the quotes that are out there, that he's like, he slams the locker with his fist and it's like, get back to doing what you've been effing doing. And I know Brad, and he's not he doesn't curse a lot, but I'm sure he let him have it. And he's not that kind of dude, but he had to. He felt like, I think he had to slap some sense into AA. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, you're not even being you. And this guy's not playing. No, credit to the Russian player. What was it?
Medvedev.
It sounds like Medvedev.
Andre Medvedev, right, Alex?
Yeah, something similar to the guy now. But who was a fine player and it deserved to be in the final. So, yeah, so Andre says, well, I just figured I'd go out, find another way to lose. I think really what he got back to business. I don't know if Gil Reyes weighed in. Gil might have been down there and probably would have said in a calmer way, because Brad would have been pissed. And Gil might have said, hey, man, come on, stick to the plan. Stick to the plan. Come on, man. You're cool. You're good. Stick to the plan. Because at that point, he was down 2 sets and a break.
And a break, yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And, it's just, you know how it is. You guys are players. But I'll tell you this much about Brad Gilbert. He's my favorite guy. I got lucky. I met him in Queens when he started with Roddick. So literally in 2003, Roddick lost early in the French and got rid of a very good coach that he had for a long time and signed up with Brad. So there they are at Queens. And who does Agassi face, Roddick face in the semis? One Andre Agassi.
Yep.
So I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Like Brad, hasn't been coaching and they play a great semifinal. And Brad would sit in the media section because in those days our section was behind the behind the baseline, which is, in my opinion, the best place to watch a match. That's my feeling. unless like I had a helicopter or something. But or a drone. So he's there the whole time with the media people, and he likes to talk. And boy, that semi with Agassi was great because it went 3 sets, and I think Andy may have had to save I don't think he had to save a match point, but that was a hell of a match. He had just lost to Agassi in Houston a couple weeks before, where he was up a set and a break against Agassi. So he beats Andre. Brad's there. That must have felt good. Then they go on, and he loses to Federer in the semis at Wimbledon. Great match. And, Brad's great. he's great. Known him a long time. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so sick. Yeah, he was always my favorite. I had like 2 favorite tennis commentators that I like I listened to everything they said. The number one guy for me was Brad, obviously, but I also liked who was that other guy? Robbie Koenig. I love listening to him. He was entertaining.
Agree.
He was entertaining to listen to.
Oh, like he would say, man, I think your style is. I like your style on that because they're both analysts. But Robbie, I mean, he's South African and he has funny things, Yeah. And he would always call, like, I think he would say, "Hey, China," meaning like if you're his buddy, like it's like, "Hey, mate," and he's like, "How's it going, China?" I don't know if it's spelled like the country, but really charming guy. And oh boy, I agree with you. I mean, that's why I'm glad he's always on that world feed. He's hilarious.
He's awesome. So entertaining to listen to one of his matches. And Brad is Brad to me is kind of he finds ways to explain really complicated tennis insights in like super simply so that you can understand. You're like, wow, this guy's a genius. You know what I mean? And we mentioned we were talking books. We talked Open. I mean, Winning Ugly is another. I mean, you can't those 2 books. I think arguably 2 greatest tennis books that have ever been written.
Well, the thing about Winning Ugly, I see it. It's obviously more instructional than Open, but it also gives you nice, juicy stories. Yeah. So what to me makes Winning Ugly so fascinating as a tennis player is we get these cool behind the scenes stories, but then we also get what I learned from Winning Ugly is how to play the score, Brad loves to talk about weather, right? I mean, what commentator have you ever humidity? He loves talking about the weather more than anybody.
Yeah.
And I get that. I'm into that stuff. So, Winning Ugly. Well, Open is you don't have to be a tennis player.
Yeah.
To read Open, and Winning Ugly, and I guess there's a new chapter in Winning Ugly, so I might have to pick up a new copy. But yeah, no, Brad Gilbert is he's very loyal. I wouldn't say this about many people. I think we're friends, but that I wouldn't say about anybody else in tennis. So I'm lucky to have known him that long. And I'm acquaintances with other people, but Brad is loyal, and God, he loves tennis more than anybody, and he never gets hurt. He still doesn't get hurt, and he plays tennis.
He's a beast. And
Alex, are you still there, or are you asleep?
I am still here. I'm just. It's funny. It's like Steven is the '90s guy. Is the guy who talks. He's so funny. He'll bring up names to me, and I'll be like, I've never heard of that person ever. And I'm more the mod. I'm more the I like that story with Agassi. Like, I'm not aware of that, but I do. I will say this.
Really?
My dad's current. I know.
Dude,
I know. I'm out of it on that stuff.
99 French Open. I mean, how old are you, Alex?
I'm 24. So was that 99? So I was 1 year. 1 years old. Yeah, 1 year old.
Yeah. All right, fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so a little bit out of touch there.
Brad's like, all right, yeah, checks out.
Checks
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. No, no, dude. That's gosh, I mean, yeah, no, that's totally, I get it. So you're more than for you, if boy, you're more 2000s. Were you like well, you tell us, who was like your guy?
I was a big Marat Safin guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was my guy. I've had a few stories. You know, I grew up in the first 11 years of my life I spent in Russia, and that's where I started playing tennis. And so Marat Safin was like the guy. You know, I saw him. I've met him a few times, and he's just a good dude, and he was always entertaining. And you know, there's something about him. You know, he
Yeah,
wanted
well,
to
I
watch
think
him.
you'd
You wanted to
say-
watch him play.
I think you'd say Atlichna.
Atlishna, yeah. There you go.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
It's pretty good.
You're
I mean,
right, dude.
I understood.
like,
he was great to
Atlichna,
watch.
Excellent. That's what I think it means. His win over Federer in Australia,
Yeah.
Sensational.
05, I believe.
One of the best matches of all time, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know which one of you gentlemen said that, but
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
And did he save a match point against Fed? I think he did.
I don't
I think
remember
in
if he
that
stayed at the
semi.
match point.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I remember it was a slow start for him. And then my favorite thing about Marat is he would go down in a set and he would just give it away. He'd be like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
On to the
focus
next
on
one. On to the next one. So, you know, I think
Sure.
he lost the first set and then he kind of regrouped and, you know, and just it's the talent pushed him forward. I honestly believe that Marat is probably one of the most talented players to have ever played.
Man, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I mean, what he did to Pete in the U.S. Open final. Gosh, I guess it was that 01 or 2. I think it was 2000. It's either 2000 or 2001. I mean, he put a smackdown on Pete. And, you know, that was Pete's court, you know. I think it was 2000 because Safin should have finished the year number 1, but thanks to Gustavo Kuerten's heroic efforts at the year-end championships, Safin was denied. I mean, that must have crushed him. You, especially as a Safin fan, must have been devastated that he didn't end the year number 1.
He's interesting though because I feel like he's so like the reason I say he's so talented is because it's so like I feel like his mind was elsewhere at times. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he just enjoyed life. Like he just did think like he would go out and would, you know, there's so many stories that you hear about Marat Safin while on tour. I don't know
Yeah.
how many of them are true. I don't know what's true, what's not true. But you know, I think that he reminds me of like a Kyrgios in some sort of way. Where like Kyrgios is just like, I just want to play video games and hang out. And then, you know, when I need to perform, I will. And I feel like Safin in some ways, you know, there's some resemblance there. Also,
talent-wise,
players like-
I think you're right. Absolutely. I think we expected Kyrgios when he emerged to be winning 7, 8 majors. When he first kind of came on, you know, he had that big win over Nadal in 2014 at Wimbledon, and it was looking like this guy, you know, should win 4, 5, 6 majors. You know, everyone was saying that. McEnroe, all the pundits, and because like you said, that kind of talent, that raw talent that Safin had, and arguably, you know, Safin's in the Hall of Fame and Kyrgios won't be. You know, unless he pulls the rabbit out of the hat. I mean,
listen, Kyrgios still has a chance. He still has a chance. I think.
Okay, you got to explain how. I guess nowadays you can get in with winning 1 major.
I think that we've seen it. Like he's on an upward trajectory. I feel, you know, like he went through a tough period where. Yeah, he will obviously, like, based on what he's saying and based on, you know, just, I guess his feedback, he wasn't in a good place. And I think now he's calmed down a lot in the sense of like he's become a little bit more stable, just like outside of the court as well, you know, mentally. And I think that, you know, we saw we saw him perform. I mean, he got to the final of Wimbledon and lost to Novak.
That was very respectable. Absolutely.
He has. You still see him, lash out on court, and I think there's a lot of work to be done for him, obviously. But listen, the guy's. I think I wouldn't count him out. I think he's got a lot of potential.
Look, I'm not a hater because I was I was buying that stock in 2012, 13. Then the win over Nadal, 14. It's like, this guy's gonna rack him up. Yeah. It really felt like he was gonna rack up majors. He just, gosh, I don't have to tell you guys, nothing was missing from the tool bag. What's the thinking? And since you probably are someone who follows him, when's he expected to return? Will he be able to play the grass court season?
I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't know. I honestly haven't.
A lot of points to defend, and
Well, the grass. They didn't get points. He didn't get points for.
Oh, that's
Wimbledon.
right. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where have I been?
Yeah. So he did. So I think there's not a lot of pressure.
Him, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, hopefully he's back. I think I don't know what the status of his injury is, but
I certainly agree. I think he's I definitely 100% think that guy can win a major. But as far as getting the Hall of Fame, some guys get in with one major, but there's guys like Sergio Buguera, with 2 French Opens that aren't in the Hall of Fame. Go figure. Right. I don't get it. But
yeah, I think also the popularity aspect
that'll help.
We'll see. I mean, he's he's got that popularity, but he's popular for. I mean, some of his popularity is he's popular for not so good reasons. You know what I mean? It could be
notorious, if we want to put it nicely.
Let me ask you a question, Alex and Brad. If Johnny Mac had won 1 Grand Slam, would Johnny Mac be in the Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Yeah.
You got to say yes. You know what I mean?
Just like we both said at the same time. Yep. Because of Davis Cup, he would have had a year-end number 1, just like Roddick. Why is Roddick in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
He won the second biggest major. He got a Davis Cup title, and he finished 2003 number 1.
Yeah.
To me, that's a lock. You got that trifecta, you're in. And just a great competitor. The guy never tanked, and he gave a lot of. Federer was his nemesis more than the other two because he had wins over Novak early on, and Nadal a little bit early on. But the Roger Roddick matchup was a nightmare.
Yeah, he couldn't quite figure that one out.
That's a shame. I really wish you would have gotten that 09 Wimbledon, man.
I know. Yeah.
That hurts.
That does. It really does.
It's my favorite is watching. There was an interview he did with him after he retired with Fed, where he was asking him, and the saltiness that is very much there. Obviously he did it playfully and joke. He was joking.
Yeah.
But it's just funny because it's like you really could tell that he was, it really took a lot out of him to not be able to get those wins against Federer and not to be able to solve that puzzle. It's just like one of those things where it's like matchups happen and Fed just has his number,
Yeah,
so
exactly, a matchup thing. And I think it was 04 where he also had a kind of a decent shot and some rain breaks kind of hurt him in that final. That was one, it was in his grasp. Well, kind of, but look, he's not going to lose sleep at night. He's a legitimate Hall of Famer, and that's that. And the last, American guy to win, as we know, a major since then. But fellas, I've kept you over an hour. I realized, and that's Alex's fault.
Yep.
I'm so sorry for the technical difficulties. Listen, this is what I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and you got a taste of it, and I hope it didn't make things too difficult. So thank you for your patience.
It was very sweet. You were, you came in, and I liked. Again, I your assessment of these guys and the Sapin and the others. And yeah, maybe one day we'll talk about Yevgeny Kafelnikov, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what, Alex, you probably wouldn't have been, able to provide a decent contribution on the 90s tennis talk anyway. So it's kind of good that
it was kind of perfect, right?
it's kind of perfect that you cut off there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. No, I'm glad it worked out. And the timing that's all that matters.
Well, gentlemen,
Awesome.
like I said, wow, what a pleasure. How do we find this slappy, just slap tennis? Or is it just slap?
Yeah.
I'm afraid the female viewers might get a little confused.
Well,
I'm
we have, it's funny. We have a good amount of female fans that'll watch. So, but if you just go on YouTube and you type in "just slap tennis," we'll make sure to have some good stuff up there for anybody that's interested.
No, you do. And the one that I saw today, I think Alex was, I don't know if he was taking a nap or where he was at that point, where, Stephen put up a cool video about why he loves indoor tennis. Was that the most recent thing, or was that a thing that just
that's probably that was a chop up of one of our most recent videos. Probably not the most recent one, but one of our most recent videos where we played at the at Grand Central.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, like, we, sometimes Alex will have a strike of brilliance, and then we'll cut that and we'll throw it up there. And then rarely I'll have one, and then I'll make sure to maybe include a few of mine as well up there, and it's kind of how we roll.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's kind of cool that sometimes there's an idea that something will come out once a week, a certain day a week, and I found working with Quality Shot Tennis that we were trying to have something every Wednesday, and it's really hard. Booking people, and as you know, and Fizano's so busy, so it's good for people to miss you too. Like, I go to these websites where I like their stuff. I'm like, what? Come on, what's going on? I need it. Got to have it.
Yeah.
It's okay, but anyways, I will leave it at that, gents. Again, I really appreciate it. If anybody likes this, wants to like it, subscribe, you know what to do. And gents, maybe at the end of or middle of summer, we do it again.
It's been a pleasure.
100%. Brad, thank you so much. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
You're a legend. Bye-bye.
Yeah, right. See ya.
Bye, Brad. Thank you.